Spokane listens when business talks. Welcome to Business Talks, the region's only local business talk show with your host, Ryan McNeice. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and, well, Dressed Walrus. Now, let's get down to business with Business Talks.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're here in the studio with Curt Stockwell of Well Dressed Walrus. Thank you, Curt.
Great to be here.
I think the first thing that's worth noting is most folks would want their title to be CEO or COO or director, or
Right.
And I like the idea in your firm that both the partners have some very creative descriptions. Yes,
Yeah.
you're the owner and
Right.
one of the founding partners, but give us a little bit about how you actually describe your role.
Right. So I am the director of colors and shapes, and Andy, my business partner, is the director of ones and zeros.
Well,
And right.
I find that very creative, and I think the more that folks get to know you, that actually fits for the identity of your firm. And today, I think what we're going to talk about mostly is the idea behind story brand. And essentially what that means is, what is the story of an individual company's brand? How does one go about clarifying the message, whether that be in various ad media, whether that be the website, et cetera. So tell us, kind of lead in for our listeners, how somebody goes about the idea of telling their story, because it's not what everybody usually thinks it is.
Right. You know, so we're a website design company, and we primarily help businesses with their online marketing, primarily through their website. We do kind of dip into some other areas online, but I mean, the things that you can do online are so vast, and it can be overwhelming. So our goal is always to focus on the website first. In 2018, your website really should be the hub of everything that you are doing in your marketing, whether it be online or networking or handing out business cards, because the first thing that you want to do when you meet somebody new is you want to go have a 15-minute conversation with them, right? No, you want to go to their website.
Right, is the word not cyber stalking?
Right, yeah, you want to go to the website, and if the website is not clear, then you're confusing your potential user or your customers. And that's really one thing that we focus on, is finding clarity in your messaging, and that can be done really well through story. And what does that mean, story? That word story gets thrown around so much. And actually, I've been doing this for a lot of years now, and the term story actually was kind of, I didn't like it.
Right.
I always kind of...
It's misleading.
Yeah, I always kind of fell back on, you know what? At the end of the day, do your customers really care about your story? I think they more care about their story. And so as we've been kind of unpacking how we could help customers do that, we've really been focusing on the concept that when you clarify your message, you're going to connect to the soul of your customer. Now that sounds maybe very highbrow, but really the reality is, when you can connect with the soul of your customer, and by what I mean by that is, people want to be heard. Right.
They want to engage and feel that engagement.
Right. And in the marketplace, people are saying, solve my problem. So when they're coming to your website, whether you have a business or a nonprofit or you know, whatever, they want to understand that you can solve their problem. And when you connect with the soul of your customer in that way, they're going to be returning to buy your product, and they're going to remain a loyal customer. So the way that can be done is through great story. And when you have great story, it is a way to clarify your message. Most of the problems that people have in their marketing, and especially on their website, is your message is confusing. Now, businesses that have done this really well over the years.
Yeah, what's some examples of, that just illustrate good story brands?
Right. So if I said, name a computer company that's done a good job at clarifying their message.
Yeah.
Apple. Everybody would say Apple.
Apple.
Because Steve Jobs, since the 80s, did such a great job of clarifying their message and not confusing. Simplifying. I mean, people would, you'd get the Android users who would say, oh gosh, the iPhone is so subpar, and maybe the Mac is not as great as this and the other. But what Apple does is they do a very good job of clarifying their message. One of the stories that I love about Apple is when they came out with the iPod. It's an MP3 player. Remember, I'll remember the iPod. They didn't come out with the iPod technology or the MP3 technology. It had been out for a few years.
Right, they didn't originate
But what they
it.
did is they said, this isn't an MP3 player. They said, this is 1,000 songs in your pocket. And when that message of 1,000 songs in your pocket solved the problem of I hate messing with. You remember when we were driving around in the '90s and you had your disc player on the
No,
dash?
Curt, I'm far too young for that.
Right.
How could I possibly remember that?
Yeah, come on, Rena.
Yeah.
So you had your disc player on the dash of your car, and you're driving along,
Yep.
and that thing's bouncing and skipping, and
Yeah.
So the problem that people had was like all these CDs and all these tapes, and so Steve Jobs said, "Hey, 1,000 songs in your pocket." People went, "Oh, I can recognize
Yeah,
that."
and all of a sudden, even though the MP3 had been out in different,
Right.
all of a sudden it resonated.
It
engaged.
resonated. Yep, it resonated. So businesses that can clarify their message stand out. And what we say is that story is the key. And customers don't care about your story; they care about theirs. And so
That's a good point, though. Dig a little deeper on that, because I think that actually, when you see most about us or what have you, tabs, if you will, it's the long origin of a particular business. But speak to that a bit.
Right.
That's not actually what you're saying.
Right. I'm not talking about your story. I'm talking about the customer's story. So even if you have a better product than the next guy, if your competitor's messaging is more clear, they're going to outsell you. So how do we get this concept of story into your marketing? And so story's been around for thousands of years, and we all, when you when you sit down and kind of want to veg out in watching a great movie, it all kind of follows a similar process, or any great movie follows a similar process. You have a hero, you have an enemy, and you have a guide, right? So the hero is Luke Skywalker,
Right.
and the enemy is Darth Vader, and the guide is Yoda, right? Where most businesses what they want to do is they want to identify this enemy, and they want to place themselves as the hero.
And how do we solve this challenge?
And where does the customer fit in? So really what you want to do is you want to make your customer the hero. You help them or very clearly identify that, hey, I can identify with this enemy as well, and this is how we're going to solve your problem. You're merely the guide.
I think that part is kind of an original idea, that you're the guide to resolving their problem, rather than, again, as you said, that your story.
Right.
Tell us some examples here locally that you see, not obviously specific businesses that maybe do it well or not so well, but some examples of people maybe.
Well, sure. So, let's say you're a landscaping company and you have a website. Most businesses, and we've all seen it, you go to the homepage of this landscaping company's website, and it says serving Spokane since 1982, and there's 3 or 4 slides that are sliding, maybe 5 slides that are sliding across the homepage, and you really are not totally understanding what this company's all about. Really, what a better approach to that would be, the first thing that they see is not these moving slides. One thing that's been proven over the past few years is that whole slide concept doesn't work.
And that was a big deal.
That was a big deal.
Ago.
I mean, some of the myths of web design, or some of the things in web design that have changed over the last few years, is that whole slide concept and the whole above the fold concept. You have to have all your marketing or messaging above the fold, which is the fold on the laptop.
Right.
And it comes from the fold on the newspaper from years ago.
Sure. And now, of course,
now the whole concept of what we do with our phones and scrolling, what you do with Facebook and scrolling, your messaging can be a little bit longer down the page. So that gives you an opportunity to have a very clear intro message. And what we say is you should be very clear right out of the gate. Your website should pass the grunt test. What is this? The grunt test is, what is this? How will it make my life better? And how can I buy?
So in essence, is that the kind of the age-old elevator speech, like a very condensed?
Yeah.
What is this, and how can it help me?
Essentially, yeah. So if you gave somebody 5 seconds on that landscaping company's website that says serving Spokane since 1982, and then it goes into a big long paragraph about how their uncle started the company and their motto is this and their philosophy is that. Within 7 seconds, a user is not able to understand, what is this? I kind of know what it is. It's a landscaping company, but how is this company going to make my life better, and how do I buy? So if we took that landscaping company example for instance, and said, rather than serving since 1982 and this is how my uncle started the company, we change that to be the envy of your neighborhood.
Right.
You're hitting that thing that's in people's soul, right? I want my landscape to look great. And what are you all about? We can build the landscape you've always wanted. Or maybe another thing is you know your customer and you know that they're not the type that are going to get out there and do it themselves. And so done for you services, something like that. And then the next thing that you see is a nice clear button that says schedule a free no obligation meeting. Done.
Right.
Step away and let them keep
You've accomplished
scrolling.
what they're interested
Keep
in,
scrolling
which is
down.
resolving their issue.
Keep scrolling down the page. And so the reality is, it's, some people don't want to hear this, but the reality is people don't care that your uncle started the business in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
They care about their own needs. And when you can focus on the needs of your customer and they feel heard, I think that's the key, is they feel like you're listening. Then you connect with them. You connect with them at their soul level. And again, I don't want to...
and know that, obviously, at the end of the day, before they press that button, so to speak, is that can you effectively solve their problem?
Exactly.
That's what they're interested in.
Right. And so when we build websites, we focus on three things. We focus on relationship, utility, and ROI. Now, it should really solve all three of those things and focus on those things mostly. So relationship is, how can I, as a company, portray that I want a relationship with you as a customer.
Mm-hmm.
And again, in the marketplace, people want to be heard and they want their problem solved. Okay, so you're providing a way for creating relationship. Now, utility is another piece as well. If people can come to your web presence and they can attain things that they can take away from your website, fill out a form, download something, buy a product. That is the whole utility piece. The website's providing a utility. Then, of course, ROI. As a business, we all want
return on
our investment. Exactly. And we've heard from businesses in the past that, I've always looked at my website as this necessary evil. It's expensive, and I feel like it doesn't work. And it took a lot of time for us to, create all the copy ourselves. And we had the secretary's nephew build it, and he took 2 years to get it done, and then it wasn't done the way we wanted to get it done. Well, the focus was checking the box of build website.
Right.
There wasn't a clear roadmap created to how are you creating a relationship, what utility are you providing for your customers, and through that, what kind of ROI are you expecting?
What are we trying to accomplish here?
Right.
What is our goal?
Right, exactly.
Let's
and
take
that can be done through a clear story.
And I think that is what you're doing a good job of explaining, is how do you clarify the message? You can put multiple messages out there, but I think you're doing a good job of explaining that the person that's trying to engage is getting lost in this bombardment of online media and or otherwise media. But
right, and it's really fun for us because when we bring a client or a potential client into our initial meeting about kind of an onboarding meeting, it's funny because most of the time these businesses or organizations are coming in with like, okay, so I really like this website and I like what this looks like. And most of the time it's all about look. I like what this looks like. I like what that looks like. And I like what this looks like. And what I'll do many times is go, have you tried to use that website? How usable is it?
That reminds me of the old Flash.
Flash.
What year would that have been? That was big.
That was,
late
10 years ago.
Yeah, but everybody I want Flash because I like how that looks. That's what they'd say.
Yeah,
but was it effective? And ultimately with handhelds,
well, no,
it
once
wasn't.
you got mobile devices out there, they couldn't see it. Yeah.
Let's take a short little break and come back and chat about clarifying your message for marketing purposes. Thanks, Curt.
Hi, this is Curt Stockwell with Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful. It needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.
The economy is getting stronger. Banks are lending again, and interest rates are at historic lows. Now is a great time to buy your dream home. The caring and knowledgeable professionals at Homes for You have been helping people just like you for over 20 years. They take the time to listen to what you want and will help you find just the right home in Washington or Idaho. Real estate is what we do at Homes for You, 928-5782, or visit online at homes4uspokane.com.
Welcome back to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're here in the studio with Curt Stockwell, Dressed Walrus. And the first half of our discussion, we were drilling down on the concept of clarifying a message, primarily the website, in terms of that being the focus of these days. If someone's going to talk to you in any type of setting or meet somebody, pass out a card, etc., they're going to look at your business card, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've indicated that needs to be the focus of where somebody...
they're going to look at the business card and immediately look for that website link.
Right.
And that's where they're going to...
And then if they go to that link and it's just bombarding you with information that isn't clarified and narrowly gauged to the intent of what the customer needs, you run into problems.
Right.
So when your clients come to you, that initial consult, they've probably had experiences back into the early aughts, and we were just saying with Flash and the 05s, 06, 08, et cetera. There's been a lot of genres of having your website done. They've either had good or bad experiences. But I personally, we've had good experiences. Dressed Walrus has done a great job for us in different mediums for us. How does a new client, when they come into you, explain that process of what you walk them through to narrow the focus and clarify their message that we've been talking about?
Right. So like I mentioned, a lot of times we'll be working with people who are on iteration 3, 4, 5 of their website.
For sure.
And there's been a lot of bad experiences that people have had about building the website. They've come through the reality of, man, this is actually harder than I thought. I'm not going to do it myself. So I'm going to hire the secretary's nephew to do it, and he doesn't get it done. And
not that he wouldn't do a good job.
Not that, yeah, right. Or wasted dollars on something that looked really pretty but never created conversions. And that's really the key, is you can have a beautiful website, but it also has to be usable. And at the end of the day, if your user turns into a customer, or if a click turns into a conversion, that's the win, right? And so the process that we go through is in this initial concept of creating this story, the story that your customer will recognize, and it connects with their soul. And the process that we initially go through is an intake meeting, and we talk about who's your customer. And it's funny, when we sit down, a lot of times people will have, links to other websites that they like, or old website copy that they're like, and I want to say this, and we like this, and we want to make sure that our mission statement is on there, and here's a little bit about our history, and we're like, okay, that's great, because that's usually the process that they've had to go through. Here's all of our copy, all of our content. Now you're building the website, and we're saying we're going to do both. We're going to get your copy nice and clear, and then we're going to build this great website for you. So the process that we go through is, I say, who's your customer?
Which isn't an easy question to answer.
It's not an
right?
For most businesses, that's not an easy question to answer.
Because sometimes who you think your customers are isn't necessarily the factual
and so
case.
we really drill down, who are they? And we really drill down as to who they are. And I always say, what keeps them up at night? And that's the enemy.
I like that question, though. What keeps them up at night?
Because when I say, who's your customer's enemy, they kind of look glassy-eyed and kind of, what? Cholesterol? I don't know. But when you say, what keeps your customer up at night? And then it starts this conversation of, how can you be the guide to help them realize that your solution is going to help them sleep better? And I love it, because especially when there's multiple minds in the room from this company X, the light bulbs are going on all over the place. And this meeting, 2 hours later, it just seems like it passed, in minutes. And it's exciting for businesses to really kind of unpack the thing that they know inherently. And a lot of times they're doing a great job one-on-one talking to people. And you mentioned, I handed you my business card. You went to my website. You were pretty clear when we were at that networking thing, but man, I'm not getting that when I go to your website.
Yeah, now I'm getting lost in the
What we do a
imagery.
great job of is that kind of passing of the baton of, you've done a great job presenting your business or being a face for your business, and the websites, through what we can do for businesses, basically takes that baton and converts that sale.
Right. I think it's so true, though, that it really resonates with me, the way you ask that question, though. What do you stay up at night over? What are the issues? And that is the essence of solving a customer or client's problem.
Right.
Whether it be healthcare, accounting, law, any business USA, they themselves probably, they do lay awake at night thinking, if I could only solve this or that. So if you can be that service and solve that problem, you're half the way.
You mentioned StoryBrand. Actually, StoryBrand is a book that I'd recommend anybody go check out. It's
Who's the
something
author of that book?
Donald Miller.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's something that has really brought a lot of revelation to us about how to present this solution. And they say that in the homepage of your website should probably be less than 100 words.
And that, I mean,
that's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard to
it
do.
is.
But you think about a website that's really done nice. Think Apple.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of white space. As you're scrolling, there's images coming up, and there's a very clear message. And the next scroll, there's another image or two, and you can identify with that person. And there's another message going, oh, they solved this problem, and I can have that problem
I think
solved.
you can naturally assimilate it versus some of these websites that you see that just. And oftentimes it's some type of news source, I would say, that they just want to bombard you with all of this information, but it's in such a fashion that you almost give up in your psychology.
I like to say that the homepage of your website's the first date. You need to be nice and buttoned up and don't talk too much, be engaging, ask a lot of questions and shut up, that kind of a thing that you do on a first date. But really, we've said for years that your homepage of your website should be a summary of the rest of your website. And I've kind of changed that a little bit and said, the homepage of your website should really answer the inherent questions that your customers have, and then give them an easy way to engage with you.
Then they can drill down into those subcategories.
Right. It's the first date you have with your customers, so don't screw it up.
So, so if you're walking a new client through that process, they're attempting to tell you their story. You're asking them, who are you actually trying to engage with? You're making that connection. Where do you go from there? When they leave, and you have to put the nuts and bolts, if you will, of this website together, how's the interaction at that point?
So then we actually go in and start writing copy.
Okay.
And that's another aspect of web design that a lot of customers have had bad experience with. I have to bring all my own copy to the website. And so especially, now there are many cases where we still use old copy from the previous website, because it's not bad, but the homepage especially, we write specifically to the homepage. And in other cases, we can write the rest of the website as well.
Right.
But specifically writing that messaging on the homepage, sometimes it's nice to get somebody outside the four walls of your business to do that.
Sometimes that outside perspective is more accurate than drinking your own Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. We many times as business owners talk shop talk, and we are okay doing that with fellow employees or others in the industry. But then you go out there and start to sell, and you still talk shop talk, and it's right over the head of people.
Right.
So we go through a process of writing out that copy. And then we go through a wireframing process, and I kind of call that like a back of the napkin.
You call that wireframing?
Wireframing.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll wireframe the homepage of the website, and we'll say, this is how your copy is going to lay out on the page. These are some photos that we can add to the page. Again, engaging photos that are going to help people identify with the copy that is next to it. We're focused on beautiful websites that have to be usable, and so a great engaging the look of a website is very important, and the user experience or UX is very important as well, but really content is king. And so we go through the wireframing process to kind of say, this is kind of how your website's going to be laid out, and then we go through a design process where we actually create the homepage of the website through usually through Photoshop, and give like a visual of what it's going to look like, and that kind of figures out all the fonts and the colors and the things that are important for branding.
Yeah, visual appeal.
And then once that's approved, we go into actually building the website. Many of the websites we build are brochure sites. It's just, this is what we offer, this is how to connect with us. But we also are very good at creating websites that are a little bit more complex. Maybe they've got a back-end database that's managing large amounts of files or logins or e-commerce or anything. We've got a great development team. Andy, the director of Ones and Zeros.
Ones and Zeros, and Andy does a great
he
job.
And the development team do a really good job of taking this clear message that we've crafted and then turning it into a great website.
I think what I've experienced with Dressed Walrus, though, and where I think you do things differently in a number of things, people might think that it's technicians and technical. There are those aspects of it, and you've described those. But I think Dressed Walrus also brings a psychology element to it, which is so important. I mean, that's basically what we've been capturing today, which is having the website and the technical tabs and information and contact, et cetera, that someone can gather that information, but what's the psychology of the information that's actually on there? And the difference between good and bad or incorrect psychology could be the difference, as you're explaining, between clicks and or customers.
Right. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, the psychology of it. And when the do-it-yourselfer wants to go on Wix or Squarespace, those are great resources. And honestly, if somebody comes and they say, "Oh, that's too expensive. I'm a startup. I've got a bunch of time to invest into this myself." I'll be happy to sit down and chat with somebody and say, go ahead and use Squarespace or go ahead and use Wix. You should probably realize that you're going to spend about 100+ hours trying to work through not only the ones and zeros aspect of it, but where a lot of people get stuck is that psychology aspect of it. How do I make this engaging? How do I create a user experience that is going to convert customers into clients or users into clients?
They might actually have the domain name.
Yeah.
If you type in such and such, that pops up.
But
then from there, have you accomplished, as we're saying,
the psychology of it and the user experience of it, this creating story is really the art.
What do you think the time? Hard to answer this probably, but roughly, I come in as a new client. You haven't met me at all. You don't even know my type of business, that type of scenario. I come in and you have that first consult. What's usually a timeline to having a finished product? And I know there's lots of variables there as to whether they produce the information you need to do it. But
once we have, after that initial sit-down meeting, it's usually about 8 to 10 weeks.
So that's pretty good.
Not that we can't get them done quicker, but we got a pipeline full of website jobs we're working on.
Not only that, but as you described, you could have a landing page, if you will, or a brochure type page versus e-commerce.
Yeah.
E-commerce is going to have
the e-commerce thing's a totally different animal, and that could take much longer. We've done websites that are quite robust and have big shopping carts, and that of course does take a longer process. But usually about 8 to 10 weeks. That gives us time to create copy, send it back to the client, let the client kind of marinate on it a little bit, and go, you know what? I would say this a little bit differently, or that's not really the terms that we use.
We're close, but let's hone this a bit.
So going back and forth on that, it's usually about 8 to 10 weeks.
Cost-wise, I'm sure folks, any businesses, if they're looking at their dollars and cents, they're thinking, can I afford this? Probably why you get the question about Wix or otherwise. Reasonable question. In the legal community, what do you get? You get LegalZoom, Rocket Lawyer, and I answer probably very similar to what you did, that those are great resources. There's definitely value added in the sense that folks sometimes don't know what the documents are that they're getting on a LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer. There's nothing inherently wrong with LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer. They're great resources. So is Wix probably.
Yeah, and I tell people that those are great resources, but there's a low ceiling. You're going to hit your head eventually.
That's a good way to put it.
You're going to hit your head on the ceiling eventually, and then when you want to break through that, we're here for you.
So cost-wise, do you oftentimes do flat fees, hourly? How do you usually structure that with clients?
Usually based upon a contract. And we have, we're always willing to work with people too. If you've got a lot of times, shelling out thousands of dollars, just boom, for a business is tough. And so we'll spread payments over time if necessary. We really like to work with people. Andy and I love helping. We love helping people, and if I could do it for free and have a place to live and take care of my family, I'd do it for free. I just love what I do. We love helping people, and if part of that helping is to spread a payment of this website solution, even though you got it in 8 to 10 weeks, spread it out over time to help you afford that, we can do that.
Well, Curt, I think as you described, it's obvious through the work that you produce and Andy produces that you are passionate and you love what you do, and that's what's exciting, and that's what I'm so interested in having individuals on this show talking business, that I'm interested in people that are passionate about what they do, which is that old phrase that you'll never work a day in your life if you enjoy what you do, and it's so true. Yes, we all need to make a living, but I think you get a lot of satisfaction out of resolving people's issues and getting a great product out there.
I do.
And I think throughout this episode, I think we've been putting some imagery of your own website. I think Dressed Walrus in and of itself embodies what we're talking about today in terms of clarifying the message. Your name alone, Dressed Walrus. How did you come up with that name? You don't forget that name once you hear it.
Yeah, right. we vacillated quite a bit on whether we wanted to go with a name like Well Dressed Walrus and be so odd and weird. But in our industry, you're kind of allowed to be a little bit unique like that. You know, honestly, it came down to I wanted a .com, and I didn't want to be like integritywebdesign.biz.
Yes.
And there's an integritywebdesign.com and integritywebdesign.us, and they're all competitors. And a lot of times when you have your business name out there, people like mispronounce it. And so anytime anybody mispronounces Well Dressed Walrus, they might say Best Dressed Walrus. I go by, oh, interesting. I'll go buy bestdressedwalrus.com and forward it to my main homepage.
Well, you know what, though? I think that was a great suggestion. I remember many years ago, I think it was Andy that suggested that my name being McNeice, that you need to get McNeiceWheeler.com, but McNeice spelled wrong.
Right.
We got that domain name, and I think it was a good choice because everybody misspells that name.
Yeah, and when you have a name that's really out there and there's nobody even close to you in that name, you can go buy up all those different URLs. I think we have, I don't know, 8 or 10 different URLs pointed to our homepage.
Well, Curt, appreciate you coming in. Definitely have you come back. I mean, there are a multitude of topics you and I can talk about on camera, off camera, but I think what embodied this particular conversation really is clarifying what you're trying to express or engage with your clientele, customers, et cetera. And I think the book was written again by
Donald Miller,
and it's Story Brand. I think the whole idea that you're describing, and he is as well in that book, you've made very clear today. I would encourage folks to contact Well Dressed Walrus if they need any media, web design, et cetera. I think the psychology behind what you do is very effective. So thank you so much, Curt.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Business Talks wishes you good business and a good day.